Hey guys, it's your boy JC, and this is Dream 10X episode 45. Welcome, and I'm with my lovely wife, Dr. Caple here.
Hi.
Hi. Is that a better? I'm trying to work on my intro. Well, how can I improve my intro? I want some 360 feedback here.
I like the intro. I think
was it okay?
Yeah, I think it's totally fine.
I think it was weird.
I think it was super funny.
I felt like it was awkward.
Why do you think it was awkward?
I don't know. Do you guys like our intro? Do you like my intro or not? Let me know. Send me an email at dream10x@novelisttracker.com. Let me know what you think about my intro. I need some 360 feedback here. I'm trying to rapidly improve this podcast.
So I would be your peer, 360. Who's your supervisor?
Dream 10X has no supervisor. You can find us on iTunes, Apple iTunes. You can also find our podcast on Android and Alexa. We have an Alexa app. You can just ask Alexa to play an episode or find an episode, and something that interests you. Just search for it through the voice interface there, voice user interface. Also, you can find us at dream10x.com, and you can tag www and further that if you want.
Dream10x.com.
So this is episode 45, and what are we talking about in this episode, Doctor?
10x your learning.
5 ways to 10x your learning. So let's 10x it right now. Let's go.
Woo-hoo. Guess what I did?
What's number 1?
Oh no, guess what I did?
Well, I guess what you did last episode.
I know, you gotta guess what I did this episode. You were there.
Who knows?
So James, my amazing husband.
Watch the table because of the mic.
And I'm making noise. My amazing husband sat for 10 hours watching me throw things. It was pretty amazing. So, huge kudos to him.
I 10x'd husbandry yesterday.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
No, it's good. I got to sit and watch women throw things. I mean, and I got to drink beer. So I drink beer. I watch women throw big, heavy objects. It was awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's sunburst. So, she signed up for Scottish Highland Games.
Yep.
In Southern Maryland yesterday, and she's never done anything like this before in her life before. So this is the very first experience.
The idea of, hey, maybe I could do the Highland Games, that's back to our last episode.
Yeah.
We're redefining yourself, and I want to be the strong, confident woman who can have this way of being. So this was one way to do that. And then principle number 2, adapt your mental models. My mental model is I'm a rower. And now I have to throw things like baseball, soccer, kickball. These were not my friends. And so like I had to totally adapt who I thought I was for my mental model. And then number 3, preparing myself for learning. Well, it's in nature all day. How can you go wrong?
Yeah.
So with that, yeah, you did get sunburned. So how I got to the idea of fruition to being able to execute, I leveraged these 5 principles to 10x.
The 5 principles that we're going to talk about today and how to 10x your learning. So, but before we do that, can you tell us a little bit, set the context for Highland Games and what the events were and kind of how did you lead up to, how did you find out about it? How did you want to do it?
So James is a piper. And he is an amazing bagpiper. And
no, I'm not. Stop. I haven't practiced in months.
I love hearing James play. So from the wife perspective, he's an amazing bagpiper. You make your own decisions. And but before I think it's before we got married, because it was 2019, then I met up with Nicole. Yeah, because I'm like, I can't do it this year once you ask me to marry you. I'm like, I got too much going on. I got to plan the wedding. So James said, hey, I think I want to do the Highland Games this year. And so that all went from there. And I found, I started reading about it and what you need to do, what the events are, how to throw all these things. I'm like, I need help because this is terrifying. So I looked online for different pro women who were out there who trained people. And I found this pro who's just badass, Nicole Davis out of Utah. I reached out and she was just so gracious and totally offered to help me. So she's been working with me for about 1.5 years.
This is all virtual.
This is all virtual too, yeah. So she's been working with me for about 1.5 years to train me physically, just in basic strength, as well as how to throw. So she prepared me really well. My first game was yesterday, and I'm only a little bit sore in my shoulders, and the rest of me is fine. Unreal.
What are the events?
What are the events? So there is a stone throw, and you have a 12-pound stone. It depends for a master's woman, so 12-pound-ish stone. And you have to have a flat part of the stone. You put it against your face, and you spin around, and you throw it as fast as you can, as far as you can. Super fun. Klutzy girl. Scary stuff. And then there is the hammer throw, which is one of my favorites. And you take like a mace that's super floppy. So you take like a piece of spaghetti, put a weight on the end of it, and you got to throw it around your head and toss it behind you.
It's a wooden stick that they soak in linseed oil, so it's very flexible, and it's got like a 12-pound weight, 16 pounds.
There's a 16 and a 12, so you start with the 16 and then you do the 12.
And so it's kind of flimsy, and they spin it over their head 3 times, I think, and then they let it fly.
Yeah, there is the caber toss, and that is, we had a 14.2 foot, essentially giant tree.
That's what caber means. Caber means tree in Gaelic.
I thought it meant hard to throw.
Either one. And they actually make the caber almost on the field. It's just yesterday it was just cedar trunks of trees, and they're like shaving them with a chainsaw.
It was really cool.
I was like, that's very hardcore.
Yeah. And so, I'm guessing, I don't know the weight, but it's probably about 45 pounds.
You think? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
It looked big.
Yeah.
Big and heavy.
But it wasn't like super heavy. It had some weight, but it wasn't like crazy heavy. The hard part was the height.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how tall did you say it was?
It was 14.2.
Yeah, and it's very unwieldy to get it. You got to pick it up and get it on your shoulder, and it has a tendency to want to go backwards because the majority of the tree is above your head. So you got to balance it, and then you got to run with it, and you got to flip it end over end.
Yeah. And then perfect landing is at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock.
Yeah. And then there's I was terrified of this one, weight over height. So it's essentially throwing a kettlebell over your head over a bar.
I was worried
so
about
you go whoosh backwards, and it goes over a bar and lands.
I was pretty sure she needed to wear a helmet for that, but
yeah,
it was okay actually.
Yeah. I walk into walls, trip over air. So throwing kettlebells over my head. What could go wrong? But actually, it ended up being my favorite. The one I was most terrified of, and the one that now is my favorite. There is the sheaf toss. So it's you take a pitchfork and you throw a bag of hay, and that's 12 pounds. Oh, so the weight over bar, that was 21 pounds. So 21 pounds. And then the sheaf toss, I think, was 12 pounds, 10 or 12 pounds. And so it's a bag of hay, again, over a giant bar. And the woman who trained me for this one, on the spot training, had the Masters world record for throwing 32 feet in the air.
That's high.
Yeah, so for getting on the spot training, I had literally the best in the world training me right there. So how cool is that? And then the last one is the weight for distance. And that is where you throw like a bar with a chain on it as far as you can. So that's the event.
So the context of the Highland Games and learning is we started talking about it on the way home, and how it was such an intense period for her to learn these events yesterday, because even though she had been like thinking about this and kind of pseudo trained, she'd been working with a coach virtually for probably a year and a half, something like that, a year, right?
Yeah, about a year and a half. But it was like on my own as an individual. So
and so to train for a tabor, she had like all kinds of these weird anything she could find, she was trying to mimic the tabor. Even from a PVC pipe that's capped on both ends. What did you put in there? Gravel or something?
I didn't put anything, but you can put gravel to increase the weight. Yeah.
So she's got a big PVC pipe she's been throwing in the yard, like trying to imitate
a 2x4 or not 2x4, yeah, 4x10, and yeah.
And Lord knows what else she's been out there throwing. I just hope she doesn't throw stuff through the windows and stuff. But so all of this time, you've just been trying to immerse yourself into these new events that you have to, eventually do, not really knowing when you're going to try it out. Mm-hmm. Working with this woman online, who's your mentor, and she's helping you with your strength training and all of that, and trying to prepare you for the events. But when you actually walked onto the field yesterday, I knew this was going to happen because it happened to me as a first-time piper. Mm-hmm. But I knew you were going to run into newbie issues. Mm-hmm. Let's just put it that way. You've just never done it before. So the only way you can go through the pain of becoming someone who's proficient in those events is to walk on the field. And I knew I knew it was gonna be painful. And the second she approached the tent, she was politely criticized for having the not holding her sheaf fork correctly. And apparently there's a way to hold it, a way to carry it. Mm-hmm. And then within 10 minutes after that, you learn, you got the wrong equipment. Mm-hmm. Your sheaf fork wasn't even right for the event you were doing. It was a cheap one. She didn't know these things. She didn't know she was supposed to put protective covers on the prongs of the sheaf fork so she doesn't stab herself in the eye as she's walking.
I don't know. I didn't know you weren't supposed to put it in the ground either. You're not supposed to stick it in the ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all this protocol. You're just not going to learn virtually with a virtual coach, or I don't know. And
with all the rules too, and there's so many rules that you can read about it, but until you go through it, it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
Like walking in and out of the box, like
the box where you
yeah. So there's a box on the ground that you walk into through the back, and if you don't go out the back too, you can get disqualified.
But that's only when you're like throwing the hammer and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's when you're throwing. When you're up to throw, you have to go in and out the back, and if you don't, you get disqualified.
Yeah.
So there was like one point at the end where I was about to go at the side, and everybody yells, "No!"
She's like. And then also she was doing the hammer throw first thing, and you went to your left side. They put the hammer thing on the ground before they start twirling it around, and she put it on her left side, and then did her throw, and it wasn't good. And then the coach, or not the coach, but the line judge or the judge, whatever, like corrected you, like. When you do that, you need to let us know. Yeah. Or whatever. I don't know what to do.
So also my first throw was hilarious because the judge is his eyes are popping out of his head because he's pretty sure I'm going to throw it at him. But no worries, because not only did I not throw it at him, I rolled backwards, did a backflip over this. It was pretty funny
in front of all these people. So the games are.
It's my first throw.
They're like a spectacle for to draw people into the Highland Games because they get to watch the pipe bands and they get to watch the solo pipers. And they get to watch the people competing in the Highland, events, and so there's a lot of people like coming in, watching. In my mind, it's kind of like, wow, it's kind of like this gladiators arena.
It totally
is. The men are doing their thing, and the women are over here doing their thing, and she's never done it before, and she's just learning on the fly, and just picking everybody's brains, like, what do I do? How do I do this? Like, how can I do better? Like each event. And luckily the women there were very nice to her, and were very open with explaining to you how to improve your throws and your technique and learning the protocol really quick. And on the way home we discussed like what an intense learning experience that was. Yeah. Even though you'd been doing your thing for like a year and a half or whatever, you weren't really prepared. And the way you got prepared, or you're actually way more prepared now for the next one, just by stepping on the field and going, and it's a painful process. It's painful, and you have to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to go through that pain to get that learning. Mm-hmm. And the more pain you experience, the more you learn it. Right?
Yeah. And it wasn't. For me, I didn't find it painful at all. I found it really fun.
I guess I wasn't paid for you. I was like, when you fell down back.
I thought that was hilarious. It was so funny. It was so me. I thought it was hilarious. No, I didn't have any pain. The only painful, my only painful moment was in the tent. When we first walked in.
When we first got there, yeah.
Yep, I'm like, oh God, what did I do?
See, that hurts me. Like, that kind of criticism, that hurts me. I'm like, damn, shit, I should have known that. If I had fallen down, that would have hurt me. I would have really... I would have been really self-conscious about that.
Well, see, that's like, I guess where I'm a little, my mental model is different because that doesn't bother me at all.
So that's good. Okay. Maybe some people are like me and are like, well, shy, and putting yourself out there like that and failing. That's
really scary.
That's really hard to deal with,
especially in front of an audience. The cool thing was, like, as soon as I got myself up and laughed it off, walked out, I had 5 people around me immediately giving me advice about what I needed to do.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, here's what you do the next round. It was amazing. So,
and you immediately improved. The next one,
I did a great shot.
Did better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that crucible of that arena.
Yep, taking that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, given that context of what she just went through in the Highland Games and how we were talking about how that really sped up her learning about how to do these events, we wanted to talk about the top 5 ways that we've come up with to really 10x your learning experience in anything, whether it's Highland Games or entrepreneurship, exactly, or whatever it is. These 10 things we think will help you 10x your ability to do whatever that thing is. So number 1, what is our number 1?
Reading. Read.
Read. And one of the people or one person or a couple of people that have helped inculcate that in my mind has been Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And they're very vocal about their ability to consume lots of reading material over the course of a day. I think both of those guys probably read 8 to 10 hours a day. And Charlie Munger has even said that if you want to be successful, if you want to be wise, unfortunately you're going to have to spend most of your day on your butt reading. So I think reading is very important, and that's one of the reasons we do what we do on Dream 10X with reading books and sharing what we read. And in different formats, both video and audio, and writing out our top 5 takeaways from things that we read. Talk a little bit about how reading helps you prepare for Highland Games.
So it's not just reading, because you could read a whole book and not remember a damn thing.
Right.
I mean, it happens to people all the time in my classes. So it's about what you do with the reading. You remember like 4 key points. Awesome. Do something with them. Like, think about them, reflect on them, all those different pieces. It's more about the takeaways from the book and doing something with it than just reading it. Because or else it's just knowledge. It does all marinate in your subconscious, and sometimes it'll pop out and you don't even know it. But if you want to be intentional about it, definitely write it down and do something with it. So for me, like for Highland Games, I read the rules. I didn't absorb them till I was on the field, but I at least read through them.
And maybe we can include not just reading, but consuming media through our senses, like podcasts and videos and reading. Maybe they all kind of come together.
Absolutely. Watching videos is super helpful too, because you're absorbing it in a different way, and hearing it and seeing the actual how it works.
I was just thinking, and how I started coming to bagpiping. My dad was a bagpiper, so that's why I started it. But I didn't know how to do it, and so there was a blog post. Andrew Lenz, I think, was the guy's name, and he wrote a blog, about his learning journey into piping, starting from nothing. And so that was very helpful to read about his experiences as a newcomer to get up to whatever level he got up to. And then also, of course, watching professional pipers play and hearing how they tune and how they present themselves on stage, and how they blow up the bag, and just watching and hearing all that is a huge learning experience. Because if you can model the way the professionals play, then hopefully you can get to that level as well. So maybe we include all that media in number 1. But reading is very, very important. I think it's one of the more important things for me anyway. And maybe other media are different from other people.
Yeah.
Some people like to listen to books on tape, or what is it?
Audible.
Books, Audible.
I do Audible a lot.
Yeah. I know a lot of people do, and maybe you get more out of books that way, just by listening to them.
So this is fascinating. So, and it's more recent for me. So I always read, and then my time just isn't my own anymore. And so I started when we would train for marathons and things, I started listening to audiobooks because that's how I get either fantasy book, get my get my brain to decompress, or how I would learn. I listened to a whole book on coaching and redefined how I coach people based on that. And so now when I read an article, I have a harder time focusing on the words, but if I listen to it, I absorb more. So my brain patterns and mental models and how I learn has changed.
I'm completely opposite. I don't like listening to, I like listening to music, but I don't like hearing. For some reason, I don't like.
You got really nauseous that one time.
And in fact, one Marine Corps marathon, there was they made it so people could leave recordings for you at different mile markers, and they could like encourage you or whatever. And so I'm listening, and it was fun. I loved hearing people say these funny things at mile 5 and mile 10 or whatever. But it made me sick to my stomach. I don't know why. It was just hearing that audio stuff in my ear while I'm running made me. Even when I'm rowing, I don't like anything when I'm rowing.
Yeah.
No music, no nothing. I just want to be in my head. So it's weird. I don't know. People are different, I guess. All right. So number 1, reading media, video, audio, whatever floats your boat there. Absorb that information. Helps you get it in your brain as fast as possible. Number 2, find out mentors. Number 2 is mentors. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do. Who has already done something that you're trying to accomplish, and try to pick their brains and try to pull out of them information about how to do that. One big mentor that I discovered mentorship in college. I was getting mediocre grades. I really wanted straight A's, and I wasn't sure how to do that. I had I was almost failing out of college in my freshman year. I found a guy in my class or my company who was getting straight A's in the same degree that I had. I sought him out. I said, "Hey man, what are you doing? Show me what formats do you go through to prepare for your classes and everything." And I just followed him around and did what he did. I took notes the way he took it. I even took notes the style that I followed him to a T, and I ended up getting straight A's. So that really it was cool to get straight A's, but then I realized, oh wow, if I can mimic what other people are doing, I can get the same result. And so mentors are really important, and I'm not using mentors as well. I'm not seeking out mentors as well as I should be, and I want to be more intentional about that in order to achieve what I want to achieve. But last year, I did seek out a very successful business person, Jeff Hoffman. And I jumped into I was allowed to come into his, I wasn't, anywhere near the quality of people that were in that mastermind, but I was able to, they let me come in, and I was able to learn from these guys, especially Jeff Hoffman, and it was a very valuable experience. And so hopefully that a lot of that stuff rubs off on me in my own professional life.
Yeah.
What do you think about mentors?
Yeah, well, one, I definitely have seen a change in you from as you participated. You were in the mentor group and you applied what you learned from them any way you could. So I really admired that. And for me, mentors, so I am a mentor, so seeing change in other people is really awesome. And trying to meet them where they are and explain things where they are is hard. So when I look about the mentors for me, I have a lot of sympathy. And especially yesterday at the games, because they definitely met me where I was, fundamental levels. And I so appreciate one lady, Stacy, she's again the world champion for the Sheaf Toss. Oh, she's so badass. And I thanked her at the end of the day, and she's like, I know what it's like to be new. I know what it's like to be the first time ever, and you don't know anybody, and everybody else knows each other, and it's uncomfortable, and you don't know what you're doing. So I just wanted to make sure you had a great experience, and I cannot even tell you how amazing that was.
Yeah, and on the way back, I wanted to share this comment that my perception is that women handle these types of things totally different than men. I think if I were a new man coming into a Highland game, it would be dog eat dog, everybody. Maybe not. Maybe these guys are different, but just in my experience in learning new things as a man, it's every man for himself kind of most of the time. You got to figure stuff out on your own. Whereas the women on this thing, you guys they were just out competing against themselves. They could care less where they stood with, amongst the group. Yeah. I really don't think anybody cared about where they stood up. And everybody was really helpful. If anybody was I think if anybody was struggling and open and receptive to feedback, I think they were more than willing to provide that. And I think that's why they helped you, because you were constantly asking, like, what can I do? Please help! Yeah.
You saw this terrified look.
That was the first words out of her mouth that you got there. I've never done this before. Help. Everyone's like, who's your coach? I don't have a coach here. It's virtual. Oh my God.
Everybody panic. It's pretty funny.
So, yeah, it was really nice to watch that. I enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and I'm so grateful to these women who are just so supportive, because I would not have gotten through the day without them.
So mentors.
Mentors.
Any other notes on mentors for you?
So being a mentee, being a mentee, use the principles from the last podcast, the being open to learning, challenging your mental models, because they're probably going to tell you things that go against your mental models, and think about it, reflect on it, and absorb it. Try it. And if you don't like it, try it again, and see what ends up working for you. But if they be open and receptive to what they tell you.
Learner's mind, be open. Also be grateful.
Oh, 100%.
Be very grateful for what you're receiving, and I think people will be more amenable to sharing information with you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, number 3, deep practice. Deep practice. What does that mean to you?
So, all right, so in the context of the Highland Games.
That was deep practice.
When I was out there by myself, so Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours of practice, doing something for 10,000 hours and you become an expert, right?
Yeah.
So I went out there and I threw, and I didn't throw 10,000 hours, but I threw a lot. And then, but it was superficial. So I went out there, went through the motions, get your body in check. The deep learning, the deep practice was when I was actually in this immersion experience, this learning environment, around in the gladiators arena.
Yeah. With spectators all around. Lots of spectators. So there's the external pressure, there's the internal pressure. And then I'm getting immediate feedback. And so my brain was in full deep learning mode. Everything that they taught me, I applied on the spot, ready to go. So it was for me, a very different experience. I didn't even notice all the spectators. I didn't notice everybody around me. I was focused on what they were telling me and how I could be better. And the spectators and everything else just added to the pressure of my deep learning. Yeah, as I mentioned, her caber that she usually practices with is just a PVC pipe. It's only like 10 feet, something like that.
It's 10 feet.
And then when I saw her on the field, surrounded by all these spectators, and I'm thinking, wow, this is like the gladiators arena, and she's out there by herself with this huge cedar caber that
14.2 feet.
And there's a man like propping it up for her to get it stood up, and then she's got to get out there and pick it up. I was really impressed with, because I would have been really, that was intimidating. I thought that was intimidating, but you didn't seem intimidated at all. You just seemed like you were in your zone, like, I'm going to try to get this sucker up on my shoulder and flip it. So
then I was really pissed when I had to drop it.
But you'll get there.
I'll get there.
You got one where you almost got it over.
Well, I think part of it too is building your confidence. So getting out there and just doing all these activities like 10x my confidence as well.
Yeah, and then now you have an awareness of what you need to use to actually mimic that environment.
Absolutely.
A lot better. Absolutely. And that PVC pipe's probably not going to cut it.
No, we got to go get a tree.
Yeah, because it's totally different. Like PVC pipe is so smooth and clean, and that tree is like it's cedar. It's got hair and stuff, and you came back with stuff all over you. Like, you've been out in the woods or something. Okay, so that's mentors. There's a lot more we could probably say about that.
No, deep practice.
Oh, sorry, deep practice. Yeah.
What about it? What is it for you?
I really liked talking about your experience yesterday in the context of deep practice.
Yeah.
The pressure of doing something live, and it's not something that you're just practicing on your own. Other stimulus.
Yeah.
While you're doing something. Whether it's running a business or whatever, instead of reading about it or kind of just thinking through modeling it in Excel or something like that, actually doing it is that puts that additional pressure on you. I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely.
And that kind of segues with the next thing, which is just do it.
Just do it.
So number 4, just do it. Just step out on the field and go for it.
Mm-hmm. Give it a try. Take that risk.
And that, I think, is probably one of the biggest things in 10xing your learning.
Yeah. And Dewey says, like, that's how we learn, is by doing and then reflecting on it. So you have to get out there and just do it. Take that risk. Do something. Take some step, but take an action.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
When I decided I wanted to do an Ironman, I had never done an Ironman before. I had never even done a half Ironman, and I found mentors and I read about people who were doing it and training schedules and peaks and valleys and all that stuff. But you really just got to get out there and do a small one, do a little bit bigger one, do a middle, do a half, and then throw yourself out there in the full and see what happens.
So amazing.
And it's scary. It's terrifying. I remember finishing the bike. The swim. I love the swim, so the swim was nothing for me really. And then doing the bike. I'm a horrible biker, but 110 miles on a bike, I was done. I was just done. And it was so hot. This was Louisville Ironman 2012. So hot. I'm sitting there in the tent at the end of the ride, and changing clothes, and it's stifling hot in there, and these other guys are changing, and it's just humid, and people are getting lathered up with suntan lotion and stuff, and getting ready to go out on the running course. And I'm thinking, man, how the heck am I going to run a marathon right now? I don't know. Just put one foot in front of the other and see where it goes. And by the end of the night, you're done. So I love it. I loved that you stepped out on the field yesterday and in that tent and just went through all those things. And I could just watch you, learning all the different things. So you had the bad fork. Okay, so what? You're holding it wrong. Okay, we learned that lesson. You're gonna fall down if you do it that way. You gotta modify how you throw the hammer. It was just I loved that, and I love the metaphor that we could pull into our own learning experience for that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's cool. And then number 5 is what we're doing right now. Reflection on how you're learning, what you just learned from an event like this or from Ironman or whatever. How can you apply it to the next thing? How can you reiterate your learning process? What else?
Dewey.
What else
Dewey.
Dewey.
Yeah, it's all about the reflection. That's really where the learning occurs, and then reapply. That iteration is so powerful to build those neural pathways for neuroplasticity, because our brains are meant to evolve and are meant to adapt. So.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about what we do at Dream 10X. Whether it's talking to somebody or reading a book or just talking about things like this. Is the reflection piece of it. Okay, we read a book. What are some things what are the top takeaways from that? Let's write about them. Let's talk about them. Let's get that etched into our brain or heart or whatever, and try to take that with us to the next to the next level. How do we level up with what we're doing through reflection and through all these other things? So that's our top 5 ways to 10x your learning. Right? Did you learn anything today? Top 5 things: reading, our mentors, deep practice, just do it, and reflection. And Piper says, thanks for watching Dream 10X. See you next time.